Hi, welcome everyone. This is Crystal Swearingen, the editor and co-founder of the Spod Mag, and welcome to the latest episode of the Spod Mag podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest, Takenya Mims, the writer of Four Marriages Before 40.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Thank you so much for
Thanks for
being a guest
having
on our
me.
show. Well,
Yes, thank you.
yes, your publicist and I were talking, and we were just talking about different women who have had inspirational stories, and she brought you up as like you have to hear her stories. So, I
Yeah.
want to talk to you a little bit about your book. In the process of publishing a book, which I know a lot of people are interested in getting some of their stories put into books and sold on all the different amazing platforms you're at, and
Mhm.
some things about your life. So, thanks for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me.
So, what inspired you to write this book?
What inspired me more than anything was probably my sister. I was going through all of everything I wrote. It's a memoir, so it's my life. And I reached a turning point with everything after or during my last marriage, and so I started going through therapy. Um, and going through the recovery period and finding myself healing and all of that, my sister, um, she basically kept dropping like little nuggets
Yeah.
about like helping others and sharing my story. I have a lot to share, and I've always been like secretive about my life, what I'm going through, and everything. Like I try to keep it inside, and that's not a good thing. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a good thing to keep things bottled up. But after everything, like she just kept, like encouraging me to like share, and I've always been like a writer in my own right, just because I like to journal. And so she was like, well, you already like to write, just write, write a book. And I was like, no, I don't think so. So she just kept like encouraging me. And then at the same time, like it was becoming like more of an inspiration the more I kept going through therapy and then having the positivity in this year, and being vulnerable, learning to be vulnerable in this year and more transparent. So it all like inspired me to go ahead and tell my story.
I love so many things about what you just said.
Mhm.
I think that one of the things that we as women do is we feel like we wear this badge of we can do anything. I'm a superwoman of honor. And honestly, it's kind of like kryptonite. It paralyzes you from being authentic and really knowing when you need help. And
It
as
does.
everyone who's listening to the show knows, I'm big on therapy.
Uh-huh. That's
So
good.
it's so important. And I know I don't know a lot about your past, but as I've read some stuff about your aunt and your grandmother, godmother, and your grandmother, and people who've been in your life, like
Mhm.
so many people in the Black culture just don't understand the importance of therapy. Like,
Yeah.
while you can have family, knowing the skills to break down why you have these tendencies,
Yes. Yeah.
so significant.
Hmm.
So, first of all, you don't look over 40, so you must have just got divorced.
Thank you.
So, so what was your journey like? How old were you when you got your first marriage? How did that whole thing transpire?
Number one, I was 19.
Okay.
And it transpired by me basically trying to get away from my dad. And
We
the
all know that
rules and
story.
all the rules and punishments, and oh, it was just so much, and I was tired, and I was dating this guy. He was older than me by probably like 3 4 years. And we dated for about 4 months when he proposed. Oh, I take it back. It was almost like a proposal wedding because
It was all the same time.
within 4 months, yeah, it was like all around the same time. But within 4 months of dating, we were married.
Wow.
So
And
yeah,
you
the
were so
first
young.
I know.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
I thought I was ready. I thought I was ready because my mom was 19 when she was married.
Hmm.
And like people, born in the 60s, like usually that's not uncommon,
Not at
for
all.
them. But I was not ready. I was running. I was running. I was running, and that's the truth. I was running. I was
Well, and I think that's true because I know I have relatives who, like my grandparents had to sign off on their wedding, so like they were
Mhm.
so young, and that's just kind of what happened at that point.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned in your, and I don't want to give too much about your books because I know that people can find it on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, but I
Yeah.
wanted to talk more kind of like of the business aspect of writing a book and publishing it, and just some things that you've learned from putting your life in words. Like you mentioned that you journaled before, so it was a how did that manifest? Was that through counseling that you started doing the journaling and writing, or
Actually, I started journaling probably about 12. Um,
oh wow, so you've been
yeah,
a writer your whole
a
life.
long time. And for a long, long time. And so it wasn't more so from therapy that I was writing. I think my writing changed
Mm.
when I was going through therapy, and even the difficult periods of my marriage. Like I noticed my writing was starting to get kind of more detailed, and more honest, I think. From Because when I started writing, I was going back to my journals and I was like, "Ooh, I was mad that day." And it was just like rereading what I was writing. I was like, "Ooh, I was tense that day," and it was so crazy. And I was like, "Man, my style, like my writing was changing, like, and I could tell, like, even in from me having a full journal and going to the next journal, I could tell like the changes I was making, in age and experience and personality and things like that. Like I could literally read the shift like that was happening. Um, and so I use all of that, all of my past journals, um, old calendars because I write a lot. I write a lot. Like even in my my daily planners, I'm gonna write, did this today, da 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 da. And so I put all those out and then going from memory, all of that like helped me um not only remember but like bring out more details
Mhm.
with certain things like that and more dates and stuff like that. So yeah, it
And
was
I
like
think I know so many people keep stuff on their phones now. And I'm
mm-hmm.
a big proponent of write it on paper. If your
Yeah,
phone breaks, you have to try to find that notes in the iCloud. And
true.
there's so many great ideas that get lost.
That is
So
true.
there's
It
something to be
does.
said. And I think there's something divinely connected with actually having paper sitting in your thoughts and
Mm,
writing on it.
yeah.
So who was a big influence on your life and how did that kind of manifest in your storytelling?
In my life, I would say my grandma, my dad's mom, who's deceased, she was a big influence during my childhood, early adulthood. She was a big influence, and I didn't realize her importance until I got older, like into my 20s, more so, especially during my first marriage, because I talked to her a lot during that time. And that was actually during that time of me being married to him, she passed away. And so that, I don't know, it's weird because during the marriage, at that time and the times that I would talk to her during that period, they seemed so much more special. And then it was like at the same time I was starting to cherish and retain everything she was saying. Like, you better remember this. And it was weird because I had no idea it was coming, but it was also at the same time where I just started, trying to remember everything she said, remembering how she made me feel, and she was a big influence because she used to cook all my favorite stuff. Um, but she was like so loving. Like everybody that knew her loved her, And it's funny because my mom's mom, my other grandmother, they both have like kindred spirits. Like they're so sweet. And one thing that I think influenced me big time with my deceased grandma, Grandma Peaches, is that she was not judgmental, um, and she was heavy into church, very devout. And that kind of made me shy away from a lot of stuff, talking to people too churchy, but it didn't stop her from being my grandma. And like that really helped me, you know, because I didn't talk to my parents. So whenever she would come into Memphis from Mississippi, I would talk to her, you know, and sometimes when we would go visit her, I would talk to her. And she was like my safe place, you know. And so she was a very big influence, very big.
I think, as I look at the title of your book, which
Mm,
obviously says Four Marriages Before 40, when you
yes.
talk about kind of the judgmental or churchy, how did that go with your family with those experience? I mean, I do you how was that in your evolution of those relationships?
Um, ooh, it's I don't I'm trying to see the best way to answer that. It caused a lot of my relationships, a
Okay.
lot of my issues, um, a lot of my rebellion. All of that was stemming from the churchy aspect of them. And I say that because it was like they cared more about church than being my parents.
Mhm.
And so I didn't have a bond or relationship or anything with them, so I got it somewhere else, you know. And um, a lot of the places I got it was not healthy or good, mentally or physically. But that's what I did.
And you
And I
survived it.
was, huh?
And you survived it, and you're able to tell your story to help other women
Exactly.
and men, and maybe see the clues of what you did to
Mm,
get through those situations and change it in their lives.
yes, yes,
Have your
exactly.
parents has your mom read the book?
Yes, they read it. I sent them the proof copy
Oh,
actually first, because before it went to print, and before it hit the outlets, my publisher sent me like five different proof copies, and so I had one. I gave my sister and brother one, and I mailed my mom and dad one, and I kind of gave them a disclaimer. I said, I said, hey y'all, you know how you doing? And just talking to them, and I was like, well, I sent you guys the proof copy, and I just want to warn you that there's some stuff in here you didn't know, you know. And it's not to make you feel bad either about me talking about you guys, but I wanted to be as transparent as I could. And with that, I transparency to me is not lying, you know. So I gave them the heads up that it wasn't a bash book because it's not a bash book. But it's being honest about how a bad relationship can turn around and become positive, you know. But it's also about the struggle of parental relationships. But I gave them that disclaimer, and then I don't know, maybe like a week and a half later, my mom called me like in tears, like, and it was more so about the stuff that she didn't know, that she was finding out. Yeah, so it kind of hurt. I was like, I'm sorry, but I was like, I wasn't, I didn't feel it, like the relationship wasn't there for me to talk, so, but yeah.
well, it sounds like it mended some bridges that needed to be mended.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think so often people hold things back. Like we talked about the woman that wants to be a superwoman, like, oh, I don't need any help and I'm
Yes,
sufficient, but not realizing that part of who you are is a nurturer and a carer. But that also means someone needs to fill you up and nurture and care for you as well.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup
Ooh,
because
no,
so
ma'am.
many,
Oh, no, ma'am. You
yeah,
can't.
so many of us do. And I think, you know, identifying your tendencies that led to, looking to people for that attention is super important. And I know I have three daughters, so that's
Oh,
fun.
wow.
And making sure that I keep them solidified in their own self worth. so that
Mm-hmm.
they're not prey to, people who may not have the best intentions for them.
That is
It's a
true.
full-time thing, as well as doing that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So are
Mm-hmm.
are you dating now?
I am not dating now.
Okay.
I'm not dating now. Um, yeah, single right now. Trying
It's
to work
COVID.
through some things. Yeah,
It's
trying to
COVID.
work through some things. Yeah, so just
Well,
single.
when you were ready to shop your idea of the book, how did you go about that process? What are some tips that you learned in trying to publish a book?
In trying to publish the book, I would say make sure you research who you're looking for help from. I would say to have a general idea of what you want to write. Sometimes knowing what you want to write kind of lays the foundation for the genre of what you're writing. Um, at the time, I didn't know that I wanted to write a memoir, but the more I started discussing or even just talking to my sister about what I wanted to convey to others, and I was like, wait, that's my life. Like that's a memoir, And I was like, because it's not like it's nothing made up. Like this is literally Takenya's life and Takenya's past. Um, and so I think it's very important to know what you want to write about. That way you know who to reach out to, because I know some author coaches, some publishers, they don't, they choose not to work with, certain genres. So that's important also in the research of who you want to work with. Um, Also checking their track record, which is again goes hand in hand with the research and the publisher or whoever you're getting to assist you. But being dedicated to what you want to do. Like if you make the decision to do it, like stick with it. Stick with it, see it through. Don't give up on it. It does take um, a lot of self motivation. It takes time and patience. It takes dedication. It takes all of that, because I was working, at the same time. So I had to fight through being tired, had to fight through not having free weekends per se during the process, because that was go time. I would give myself breaks, between work and, writing, because I'm using my brain. So I needed to, rest and regroup my thoughts. So I did give myself mental breaks, and those are important as well, to make sure you take care of yourself. Don't let it consume you, but definitely be dedicated to it.
Well, and I think one of the things I know we can find your book on Amazon. I was
Hmm.
just looking it up. So for people who are interested, you can get it on Amazon. They have it on the Kindle, which I have the Kindle Unlimited plan, so because I
Oh,
read
really?
so much. But I was thinking to myself how you have to be really strong when you're an entrepreneur, because I'm a serial entrepreneur. That's kind of my calling,
Hmm.
and you have to be committed to your vision. And it sounds like you were. You said,
Yeah.
this is going to be my story and my life, and we're going to make sure it's represented properly.
Right.
So did you have to go a little bit above and beyond to make sure that your story didn't get watered down or changed, or were you able to work with a good team?
I had a pretty good team. I wouldn't say I had to go above and beyond, but some feedback I kicked back. Like I didn't take everything they gave. Their feedback, especially during the editing process, I read what they said, and then I would read what I wrote, and I'm like, nah, I want to keep that. Um, so some suggestions I took, as far as especially the ones where they wanted to probe more, like give more information, because some things I did kind of coast over, didn't want to give too much of that. And some things I did leave that way, because I didn't want it to be too graphic. So I would, just knock on it a little bit and then back off. But some things I was like, okay, yeah, I could, I can explain that a little bit more or give more detail so they can have a bigger picture of what I'm, trying to say here. So uh yeah, I kicked back. It was probably about 50-50. I kicked back, and then I I responded, how they wanted me to, or fixed it, or took something out, or um, fixed some punctuation, which punctuation is important to me anyway because I like English. But but yeah, I didn't take everything that they said to change it, because I didn't want it to take away from what I wanted to say.
I,
Um,
I can I can imagine because you get into that situation where, like, when I write like I speak to you. I don't
mhm.
want it to be this Oxford Dictionary writing. I want it to be
Yes,
real and authentic, which is why I tend to have other writers write for the magazine.
yeah,
And then I prefer this type of a format.
right.
You know, the little girl journalist in me who always wanted to be the on Inside Edition. This is perfect for
Hmm.
me. And I like the platform to give people their chance to tell their stories. So what are some lessons and feelings, like, now that everything is out there? Do you have something new you're working on, or what's the next project for Miss Takenya?
I've been thinking about it. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I I don't. I had in my mind that either I was going to do a journal or another book. Um, but I haven't zoned in on it yet. I knew in my head last year, I said by spring of this year, I wanted to start like on my new
Okay.
projects. So now I'm starting to write ideas and like kind of cross them out as I go. So that way, probably by the beginning of March, I will know exactly like what I want to do.
What
Um,
genre do you think it'll be in?
oh, that I don't know. That's on the list. Like genre
Yeah.
question mark literally is on my list because I have no idea. I feel like I've got so many suggestions like from friends and family about my next one, like especially after reading this one. They was like, "Whoa, you need to talk about that some more." And I was like, "Ooh, I don't know because that'll be a little raunchy."
You can
So
take every piece of it and branch it out. That's how you
yeah,
build an empire.
hmm, that's exactly what the suggestions were. So I wrote a couple of those down. And so I'm trying to figure out like if it would be considered a memoir again or would it be considered something else. So yeah, genre I'm still on the fence about. Along with like what type, like if I'm gonna do a book or if I'm gonna do a journal, or something like that. So
I love it. Well,
yeah, yeah.
I'm a big journal person. So if you do a journal, I will follow along.
Yes, yes.
Well, how
I'm
can people find you? What's your social media? How can they get your book? Go ahead and do your plug. Tell everyone where
Oh
you're at.
goodness. Okay. Well, IG is simply capital S, simply capital K Kenya underscore capital A author. So simply Kenya underscore author. My website is www.simplykenya.me, and it has my book. If you order from the website, it comes from me. I'm doing the shipping, so that means it will come with a signature. I also added a few pieces of merchandise on there under the shop tab that I was selling when I had my book launch back in October. So there are shot glasses, there are bookmarks, there are masks, like masks on there. So it's few different things, and it's the all the different sayings or quotes or everything that's on the merchandise was inspired by the book. So that's all on my website, simplykenya.me. The book is also available on Barnes and Noble website and also on Amazon in the form of paperback or Kindle.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And we will be giving away one free copy that she will autograph and I'll send to
Okay.
you, to our listeners. So definitely check out the book. I'm a Kindle reader, but for
Mhm.
this one, I think I want a paperback. So
Uh-huh.
I'll make sure to get on there. I really appreciate when people step out of their comfort zone and really go for dreams. And I love that even though you're still doing your other job, you found a way, because if it's a passion and a dream, it's not going to go away.
That's
You
true.
work around whatever you have to work around to get it out.
Yeah.
Because I believe it, God puts callings in all of us, and if that's
Me
your
too.
calling, that's what you do. So
Me
tell
too.
me about your shirt so people can see it. Life is about
Okay.
healing. All right.
Yes. So life is about healing, and that's one of the biggest takeaways from my book is to heal. And then under it says, I am perfectly imperfect,
Love it.
which is one of the things that I have on the mask and the shot glasses, and it's also in the book. Being perfectly imperfect. So yes, my best friend, she does merchandise, personalized everything ever. She does so many things. But when I was planning for my book lunch, I asked her to like do me a couple of shirts, and this was one. I just gave her, the theme that I wanted to stay around, and a couple of slogans or quotes that I've been going by, and perfectly imperfect, it has definitely been one. And life is about healing has definitely been another. So
I love it.
yeah.
Well, make sure, and sorry guys, I don't know why we're getting some back fee, but I'm so thankful that you're willing to be on the show today. I'm excited about your book, and I'm gonna check in with you if you say March, April. So I'll be checking in with you this summer to see how the next book is going. And you guys,
Okay.
if you comment below, I'm gonna enter whoever comments on the video or even on the iPod, the iTunes podcast, whatever it's called. We'll pick one person that can win a free copy of the book. So thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you so
Uh,
much. I enjoyed it.
yes, thank you. Okay.